She changed the face of women's sports forever, dominating Olympic judo, breaking barriers in the UFC, and headlining the WWE. But while the world saw her in the cage and on the screen, few have seen the life Ronda Rousey built when the spotlight dims. Behind the bruises and belts is a woman who turned years of grit into wealth, real estate, and peace. Today, she lives between ranches and red carpets, raising a family and embracing a more grounded life. In this video, we're peeling back the layers on Ronda Rousey's current lifestyle, from her high-end properties and powerful car collection to her motherhood journey and business ventures. She's still rowdy, but in a whole new way. Before the world knew her as the armbar queen, Ronda Rousey was just a girl struggling to speak. Born on February 1st, 1987, in Riverside, California, she came into the world fighting, literally, with the umbilical cord wrapped around her neck, resulting in a neurological disorder that left her unable to form clear sentences until she was 6. Her early life was marked by constant therapy sessions and difficult adjustments, with her family even relocating to Jamestown, North Dakota, so she could receive specialized care. As she fought for her voice, life threw her another devastating blow. Her father, Ronald Rousey, who had suffered a tragic sledding accident that broke his back, died by suicide when she was only 8. The weight of grief, confusion, and instability fell on young Ronda, but her mother, Anne Maria DeMars, wasn't going to let the tragedy swallow their future. Anne Maria was no ordinary parent. She was a world champion judoka, the first American woman to win gold at the World Judo Championships in 1984. She carried the same grit and relentless spirit that would eventually flow through Ronda's veins. Under her mother's tutelage, Ronda began judo training at the age of 11. It wasn't the start of a hobby, it was the start of a destiny. Ronda trained like her life depended on it, and in many ways, it did. The discipline gave her focus, and the mat became a place where her pain could be transformed into purpose. By age 13, she was already training under top-level coaches and dedicating herself fully to the sport. The sacrifices were immense. Ronda dropped out of high school and earned her GED to focus more on judo, traveling internationally and enduring brutal training camps, while her peers were going to prom or stressing over homework. Her teenage years were punctuated by tournaments, bruises, and constant proof she was meant for something extraordinary. By the time she was 17, she had already qualified for the 2004 Athens Olympics, becoming the youngest judoka at the Games. Although she didn't medal that year, it didn't matter. The world had just witnessed the rise of someone different, someone who wasn't just strong but obsessed. In the years that followed, she continued to climb. She earned 2 junior world medals and moved up to the 70-kilogram weight class, becoming one of the top-ranked judokas globally. But it was in 2008 that everything changed. At the Beijing Olympics, Ronda won the bronze medal, becoming the first American woman to ever win an Olympic medal in judo. She was only 21, but her journey in judo had already pushed her to the edge. The sport had broken her body, exhausted her spirit, and failed to make her financially secure. Despite the honor of the Olympic podium, she retired from judo shortly after, having earned only $10,000 total from the entire sport. With no job, no plan, and sleeping on couches, she was now a former Olympian with no path forward. But that's when she decided she wasn't done fighting, she was just getting started. After leaving judo behind, Ronda Rousey entered the most uncertain phase of her life. She was 21 years old, broke, and unsure how to transition from Olympic glory to real-world stability. She took up bartending and even lived out of her car for a while, scrapping together enough money to survive in Venice Beach. But one day, she caught wind of something brewing in the fight world: women's mixed martial arts. At the time, it was still a niche scene, often laughed at or ignored by the mainstream combat sports industry. But to Ronda, it was a lifeline, a chance to turn her natural aggression and judo experience into something more. She walked into the Glendale Fighting Club and met coach Edmund Tarverdian. It wasn't a conventional training situation. Tarverdian was relatively unknown, but Ronda didn't care. She had drive, she had fury, and she had a move that was about to become legendary: the arm bar. With help from her mother's old techniques and relentless drilling, she molded herself into a submission machine. She trained Brazilian Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu under Henry Akins and mixed striking into her grappling heavy game. Her first amateur MMA bout came in 2010, and she won in just 23 seconds via armbar. That was the moment people started whispering. Then she did it again and again. By the time she turned pro, no one had an answer for her. Her fights ended in under a minute. She didn't just win, she overwhelmed, she crushed, she humiliated. Her aggression was surgical, her pace frantic, and her armbar execution was so consistent it became a running joke that she could tap out anyone with her eyes closed. When she signed with Strikeforce in 2011, she was still relatively unknown. But her debut against Sarah D'Alelio in Las Vegas changed everything. Once again, she won with an armbar. Fast, dominant, spectacular. By early 2012, she was fighting for the Strikeforce Women's Bantamweight Championship against Miesha Tate. That fight wasn't just brutal, it was career-defining. Tate was a seasoned champion and far more experienced in MMA, but Ronda dragged her into deep waters early and, once again, applied the armbar. Even when Tate refused to tap, Ronda cranked until her arm was mangled. The referee had no choice but to stop the fight. Rousey became the Strikeforce champion and, more importantly, the face of women's MMA. Her rivalry with Tate drew headlines, and Dana White, who once famously said women would never fight in the UFC, changed his mind. In 2012, Ronda Rousey became the first woman to sign with the UFC. This wasn't just a career leap, it was a revolution. She didn't just enter the octagon, she kicked down the doors for every female fighter who would follow. Dana White built the UFC women's division around her. She was crowned the first UFC women's bantamweight champion, and her first title defense against Liz Carmouche at UFC 157 was historic. It was the first women's fight in UFC history. That night, despite nearly getting caught in a neck crank, Ronda dug deep, turned the tide, and once again won via armbar. The sport was never the same again. For the next 2 years, Ronda Rousey ruled the UFC with the same ruthless dominance she brought from judo. She wasn't just beating opponents, she was annihilating them. Her victories were so quick and devastating they bordered on surreal. Fans either loved her or hated her, but no one could deny she was electrifying. Fighters like Sarah McMahon, Kat Zingano, and Bethe Correia all stepped up to dethrone her, and they all fell in under a minute. The armbar was still lethal, but now Ronda had hands too. Against Correia, she didn't even bother with the ground. She knocked her out standing, sending her crashing down like a sack of bricks in front of her home crowd in Brazil. The message was loud and clear. This wasn't just about submissions anymore. This was a new apex predator. Mainstream fame followed. Ronda was featured on talk shows, magazine covers, and movie sets. She became a global icon. ESPN, Maxim, The Ring magazine, all put her on the front page. She was cast in The Expendables 3, Furious 7, and Entourage. Her star power transcended MMA, and the UFC leaned into her celebrity, making her the face of the brand. She was now appearing with A-listers, walking red carpets, and hosting Saturday Night Live. The girl who once couldn't speak was now a household name across the world. But success brings pressure, and pressure brings cracks. Ronda's invincibility was intoxicating, but it also blinded her. In 2015, she was scheduled to defend her title at UFC 193 in Melbourne, Australia, against former boxing champion Holly Holm. Many saw it as just another easy win. Ronda herself underestimated Holm. She didn't even bring her longtime jiu-jitsu coach to the fight. From the opening bell, things looked off. Holm danced, jabbed, and picked Ronda apart with clean footwork and counter-strikes. Rousey's face swelled. Her timing failed, and in the second round, Holm landed a head kick so vicious it sent Rousey collapsing to the canvas unconscious. The Queen was dethroned. The image of Ronda face down, knocked out cold, stunned the world. She didn't give interviews. She disappeared from public view. Months later, she admitted in a TV appearance with Ellen DeGeneres that she had suicidal thoughts after the loss. The pressure, the fame, the pedestal, it all came crashing down. She tried to return 1 year later against Amanda Nunes, but the fire was gone. Nunes destroyed her in just 48 seconds. Ronda didn't land a single punch. The UFC run that once felt immortal had ended not with a bang, but with a brutal public unraveling. And so she vanished. Ronda Rousey's house in Venice, California, isn't just a celebrity mansion. It's a sanctuary designed to shield her from the chaos she once embraced. Nestled between unassuming streets and tucked behind modern black steel gates, her home reflects a shift in her life, from public force to private protector. Purchased for nearly $5 million, it's both fortress and cocoon. The structure is minimalistic, yet intimidating. Dark wood, seamless glass, and industrial steel dominate the exterior. From the outside, it looks like a modern war bunker, and maybe that's exactly what she wanted. Inside, the house opens up like a sigh of relief. Natural light spills through floor-to-ceiling windows, yet everything inside feels deliberate. The decor isn't flashy, it's calm. Neutral earth tones and minimalist design flow from room to room. Her living room isn't cluttered with awards or red carpet photos. There are no signs of her former UFC glory unless you know where to look. A framed judo GI here, a cracked pair of gloves in a shadow box there. The open-concept kitchen is streamlined, almost tactical, like a place built for efficiency, not showmanship. Her home office is small but fortified. Soundproof walls, shelves stacked with survival guides, gardening books, and self-defense manuals. There's a safe embedded into the floor beneath her desk. Taped to the wall is a quote her mother told her as a child: "You have to be willing to break your own arm to win." That darkness, that edge, it never left. It just got quiet. Upstairs, Ronda's master suite features a private balcony overlooking a heavily shaded yard, offering more privacy than most celebrity homes in Los Angeles. Her bathroom, more spa than standard washroom, has a rain shower and a freestanding stone tub imported from Asia. But what's hidden is just as important: reinforced doors, a silent alarm system, and a panic room disguised behind a rotating bookshelf. In the backyard, the jungle-like foliage and hidden corners create a surreal mix of wilderness and urban. There's a pool, but no Instagram-worthy floaties. There's a fire pit, but the chairs are worn. It's a place of grounding, not flexing. Neighbors rarely see her, and even fewer get invited over. Travis Browne, her husband, has called it our foxhole. It's where they regroup, protect their family, and disappear when the noise gets too loud. In the hills of Riverside County, far from Hollywood red carpets and Las Vegas weigh-ins, sits a different version of Ronda Rousey. Here, on over 10 acres of rugged land, she's not a fighter, actress, or public figure. She's a farmer, a wife, and a woman rebuilding her peace. Her ranch isn't a vanity project. It's a fortress of solitude. Purchased quietly after her final UFC fight, the estate includes a modest ranch-style house, a guest cabin, horse stables, and a rain-fed garden system. No paparazzi, no neighbors peeking over fences, just nature, space, and silence. The main house is cozy but functional. It's lined with wooden beams, iron fixtures, and a stone fireplace that heats most of the home. Family photos and old judo medals hang on the walls, reminders of where she's been, not what she lost. The living room is filled with well-worn furniture and stacked books on psychology, farming, and martial arts. Her kitchen is filled with cast-iron cookware and hand-labeled jars of homemade preserves. Every corner of the home speaks to her self-sufficiency. Outside is where the transformation becomes undeniable. A dirt training circle sits near the tree line, where Ronda still drills takedowns in the early morning fog. A handmade pull-up bar hangs between two oak trees. The stables house 3 horses, all named after characters from Greek mythology. She tends to them personally, feeding, brushing, and riding at dawn. The property also has solar panels, a rainwater catchment system, and a greenhouse where she grows tomatoes, garlic, and medicinal herbs. The guest house, barely 1,000 square feet, has become a kind of retreat for fighters going through hard time. Ronda's invited young women from the wrestling world to stay, train, and regroup. Most come broken, burned out, lost, or betrayed by the industry, and she trains with them, not as a coach, but as a survivor. Sometimes people just need a place to feel human again, she once said. At night, she and Travis sit by the fire pit and talk about how far they they've come, and how quickly it could all disappear. The ranch isn't for show, it's for survival. Here, Ronda has reclaimed something she hadn't felt since childhood: safety. If you want to know how someone lives, look in their garage. Ronda Rousey's collection doesn't scream celebrity. It whispers history, practicality, and trauma. There are no Bugattis or customized Teslas. Her vehicles aren't statements, they're tools, symbols, and together they tell the story of a woman who's lived fast, fallen hard, and learned to stay grounded. The first thing that catches the eye is her black Cadillac Escalade. It's the vehicle she uses most. Part tank, part family hauler. It's armored, modified with upgraded shocks and off-road capability. Inside, the upholstery shows signs of wear, but it's clean and meticulously organized. Tucked in the rear compartment are GoPros, fight gloves, first aid kits, and baby gear. She's called it my mobile bunker. Next to it sits a 2016 Chevrolet Corvette Stingray. It's not brand new, but it gleams. This car isn't about transportation, it's about release. On quiet nights, she's been seen taking it on mountain runs, speeding through Angeles Crest just to hear the engine scream. "It reminds me I'm still alive," she once told a friend. There's a sticker on the inside visor that reads, "Chin down, hands up." Then there's the Honda Accord. Yes, a basic, older model. Most wouldn't look twice, but Ronda's kept it since before fame. It's dinged up, the driver's side mirror is cracked, and there's a crayon drawing taped to the glove box. She drives it into town for groceries. No one suspects it's hers, and maybe that's the point. When fame gets heavy, the Accord brings her back to earth. Beside it, parked in the dirt, is a beast. A Ram 2500 pickup truck covered in dust and scratches. It's what she uses on the ranch for hauling hay, dragging fencing, and towing trailers. Inside are rope, boots, and a worn-out judo belt tied to the headrest. The bed always has something in it: feed sacks, fencing posts, or tools. There's no Bluetooth, just a static-filled radio and a cassette deck. She once told a podcast, "My garage isn't for showing off, it's for remembering." Each vehicle represents a different chapter: the glory, the loss, the rebuilding. Most celebrities curate their cars to fit their image. Ronda's collection is the opposite. It's raw, real, unfiltered, just like her story. Motherhood didn't just change Ronda Rousey's schedule, it rewired her entire existence. On September 27, 2021, she gave birth to her first child, a daughter named La'akia Makalapua Browne. The name, Hawaiian in origin, was chosen to honor her husband Travis Browne's roots. But to Ronda, it meant more than culture. It meant survival. After years of public humiliation, mental health struggles, and crushing expectations, motherhood gave her something she hadn't felt in a long time: pure, unfiltered purpose. In interviews, Ronda often says she didn't know how deeply she needed to be a mother until she became one. And those close to her noticed something shift. The aggression faded. The obsession with winning disappeared. Ronda, who once fought with the rage of someone trying to escape herself, was suddenly calm, focused, at peace. Her social media posts changed too. Gone were the intense training montages and defiant captions. Instead, she shared pictures of her garden, her daughter's tiny hands, and early morning coffee by the fire pit with Travis. But it hasn't been easy. Ronda's struggled with postpartum anxiety, admitting that being responsible for a life so fragile brings a level of fear no octagon could ever match. There were moments where she couldn't sleep, constantly checking on her baby's breathing. And unlike her UFC days, there was no cheering crowd to drown out the doubt, just silence and the terrifying vulnerability of being a first-time mom. Still, she embraced it like she did every challenge before. She began breastfeeding publicly, talking about it on podcasts and demystifying the postpartum body. She even trained during her pregnancy, lightly but with focus, insisting that motherhood didn't end her strength, it deepened it. "Being a mom made me realize I wasn't done fighting," she told one interviewer, "but now it's for something bigger than myself." The ranch, once a fortress, has become a sanctuary. Her daughter grows up surrounded by nature, animals, and the gentle rhythm of rural life. Ronda cooks, reads, and plays barefoot in the the grass. But behind every moment of softness is a steel resolve. She's raising her daughter with the lessons her own mother taught her: discipline, resilience, and the courage to walk away from what no longer serves you. When Ronda Rousey stepped into the WWE ring in 2018, critics rolled their eyes. Another celebrity crossover, another novelty act. But what followed was something no one expected. She became one of the most dominant and polarizing forces in modern wrestling. Her UFC legacy gave her instant credibility, but it was her raw intensity, physicality, and willingness to adapt that made fans take her seriously. In her debut match at WrestleMania 34, she stole the show. Even wrestling purists couldn't deny Ronda belonged. She quickly captured the Raw Women's Championship and held it for 231 days. The girl who once couldn't speak a full sentence now cut promos in front of tens of thousands. She sold merch, headlined pay-per-views, and built storylines that blurred the line between fiction and reality. Her real-life toughness added an edge that felt authentic in an industry often built on illusion. But with fame came backlash. Hardcore wrestling fans, already skeptical, began turning on her. They booed her at events, accused her of stealing the spotlight from full-time performers. Ronda, never one to bite her tongue, responded on social media, sometimes calling out the fans directly. In one infamous live stream, she ranted, "It's all fake anyway." That moment split the fan base. Some saw it as her heel turn. Others saw it as disrespect. Behind the scenes, Ronda struggled with the rigid schedule and constant media obligations. Wrestling wasn't just about athleticism, it was a grind, a lifestyle. And for someone already scarred by the 24/7 nature of UFC fame, it became overwhelming. By the time WrestleMania 35 arrived, where she headlined the first-ever women's main event alongside Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair, she was mentally exhausted. She lost that night, her first pinfall loss in WWE, and quietly disappeared from the ring afterward. Her return in 2022 was supposed to be triumphant, but it felt flat. The magic was gone. She wasn't the invincible force anymore. She was a new mom, a different woman. WWE booked her in strange storylines, and fan interest waned. She left again in 2023, citing burnout and frustration with creative direction. In truth, the world of wrestling didn't betray her. It mirrored the cycle she always lived through: rise, reign, rejection. Today, she rarely speaks about WWE, and if she does, it's short, focused, detached. Wrestling gave her another chapter, but not the kind she expected. Ronda Rousey doesn't walk red carpets anymore. She's not doing magazine shoots or signing brand deals. If you didn't know better, you'd think she vanished. But in truth, Ronda has never been more present. She's chosen a life of silence, not because she was silent, but because she finally has nothing left to prove. Her legacy, however, remains messy and unfinished. To one generation, she's the pioneer who changed everything. The woman who forced Dana White to create a UFC women's division. The Olympic judo medalist who made arm bars famous. The fighter who made headlines by finishing opponents in under a minute. Her dominance was once so absolute that Joe Rogan declared her the greatest fighter, man or woman, I've ever seen. She inspired millions. She made young girls believe they could be fighters too. But legacy isn't just built on victories. And Ronda's losses, both inside and outside the cage, became the defining shadow. The knockout by Holly Holm, the breakdown, the Amanda Nunes disaster, the cold rejection from fans, the messy WWE exit, the bitter interviews where she sounded more guarded than passionate. Each piece carved a more complicated truth. Ronda was great, but she was also human, and the world wasn't ready for that combination. In recent years, Ronda has been erased from some narratives. The UFC no longer heavily promotes her history. New stars have taken the spotlight, and in documentaries, her name is often a footnote to broader stories. She's not on talk shows. She's not at award shows. But ask any woman who's ever stepped into an MMA cage or stood on a judo mat, and they'll tell you there's no Amanda Nunes without Ronda, no Zhang Weili, no Valentina Shevchenko. She was the spark, the earthquake, the tipping point, and still she carries on. She wakes up before dawn, feeds her animals, trains with no cameras, and watches her daughter grow. She has a quiet marriage, a strong body, a grounded spirit. When asked if she'll ever return to fighting, she simply says, "I fight every day, just not in public." Maybe that's the final lesson in Ronda Rousey's story, that greatness isn't about lasting fame, it's about impact. And even though the world moved on, the echoes of what she did still ring through every octagon and every little girl who throws her first punch.